You're watching Eye on Africa. I'm James Creedon. These are our headlines. In Mozambique, at least 30 jihadists have been killed by Rwandan forces who were deployed there to combat an Islamist insurgency in the north of the country. We'll bring you the latest on that at the top of the show. France sends over 1 million doses of vaccine and oxygen supplies to Tunisia. This as the country is battling an outbreak of COVID-19 with hospitals currently overwhelmed. France 24 speaks to one of Africa's top doctors in the efforts to help rape survivors. Dr. Christine Amisi will bring you that interview later on in the show. Thank you for watching. Now we start in Mozambique, where Rwandan forces deployed to help contain an Islamist insurgency in the north of the country have killed some 30 jihadist fighters. This according to security officials in Mozambique. Rwanda is just one of several countries that have come to Mozambique's aid after a recent uptick in activity by Shabaab Islamist militants. For more on that, I spoke earlier to Ensipeng Motema. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
What we do know is that the Rwandans, since their arrival in Mozambique, have been patrolling the region really and the town of Palma. And so it is where this attack is said to have happened. It was an exchange of gunfire, and the Rwandans say that they've killed around 30 of these militants, and that some of them retreated towards the border with Tanzania. But what we are also hearing is that there's actually division within people in Mozambique. People are really divided about the presence of the Rwandans there. They are asking, or rather criticizing, the manner in which the approval of the mission was made. It didn't go through Parliament. People are asking, how much is this mission costing and who's going to pay for it? On the other hand, there are people who are saying that the country desperately needs it, that the government and the army have been incapable of actually stopping this insurgency, that the militants have become emboldened, as we saw in March in the town of Palma, where they overran the town just 10 kilometers from a site where the French oil and gas company Total had begun developments of a gas plant there. And so investment was threatened, people were displaced, and just overall, there's been desperation in that part of the country.
Right, and it shattered, I suppose, the credibility of the Mozambique state to deal with Al-Shabaab. Tell us a little bit more about the insurgency in Cabo Delgado in northern Mozambique and how that is connected to Islamist networks in Eastern Africa. What hope then for this mission to have success in Mozambique, given that it's a broader regional phenomenon?
The thing that has rather been very difficult for the Mozambicans to deal with this issue is that the group is really not known very well intricately, and that is because what is clear is that a lot of the fighters are coming from other countries, Tanzania, Uganda, some are Arab, and some of these people are people who really are committed to a jihadist ideology fight. And what we also do know, though, is that some of the people who have picked up arms locally are people who have felt that they're being shut out of the economic activity happening in that part of the country. And so they joined in. Now, how does it all end? The Mozambican government has finally, after months and really years of not wanting to have foreign boots on the ground, have agreed to have SADC or SADC, however you call it, to actually deploy troops there. We know that they've asked for 3,000. South Africans have already started arriving. We've heard of troops from Botswana also being there. How are they all going to work together? The Rwandans, SADC troops. We also know that the EU and Portugal are also present there providing training to this army. So how do all these work? Who is taking the lead in all of this?
To Nigeria next, where 10 pirates were sentenced to 12 years in jail on Friday. This for the hijacking of a Chinese merchant ship last year in the Gulf of Guinea. Kidnap attacks against ships for ransom are increasingly common in the Gulf of Guinea, with coastlines of countries from Senegal to Angola affected. That takes in southwest Nigeria. Nigerian pirates are particularly active. In Friday's ruling, Judge Ayakunle Faji warned the sentences were intended as a deterrent. And to Tunisia next, where hospitals are still struggling to manage with an outbreak of COVID-19 there, despite case numbers beginning to fall in the past few days. France and Kuwait have sent significant vaccine doses and oxygen supplies in a bid to bolster efforts in Tunisia. Cami Nedelec has more.
A lifeline. Kuwait sent 20 tons of oxygen to Tunisia. And earlier in the day, oxygen arrived from France, along with more than 500,000 vaccines. It comes as Tunisia struggles to secure enough doses, and only a fraction of the population is fully vaccinated.
Et écoutez, mon vœu le plus cher est qu'on arrive tous au bout de cette pandémie, parce que c'est pas un seul État qui s'en sortira tout seul, on le voit, c'est global et c'est une réponse par la coopération.
An uptick in the number of new infections last month have left the Tunisian health system at breaking point. And though infection numbers have slowed in recent days, the ICU at this hospital is still full. Tunisia has one of the highest coronavirus daily deaths per capita in the world. Staff are in perpetual fear of running out of oxygen, and they say they're exhausted.
C'est vrai, quand on dit dans 3 heures, il n'y a plus d'oxygène, on reste comme ça, on a les bouteilles, voilà, les bouteilles un peu partout. Donc ça stresse. Mais la dernière fois, bon, c'est arrivé à presque une heure avant la fin de l'oxygène. Vous imaginez si jamais il n'y en a plus d'oxygène, ça c'est... Ouf, c'est terrible.
A few kilometres away from the intensive care unit, tourists are sunbathing on the beach. As despite the crisis, Tunisia has not shut its doors to international tourism. A tough call between saving lives and livelihoods. In fact, travellers arriving with tour operators do not even need to be vaccinated, nor do they need to quarantine.
Time now for some news and brief from across the continent. Tanzania's government said it is gearing up to roll out vaccinations against COVID-19 soon. This is a shift from the policies of the country's former COVID skeptic leader, John Magufuli. He died back in March and had downplayed the risk of coronavirus. His successor, Samia Suluhu Hassan, created a task force for advice on how to best proceed with managing the pandemic. In Sierra Leone, the death penalty has been abolished. A majority of lawmakers voted to do away with capital punishment in the West African state. No execution has taken place in the country since 1998, but rights groups had kept pressure up on authorities there for keeping capital punishment on the books. At least 16 people have been killed in a suspected Islamist militant attack in northeast DR Congo. The attack took place on a remote road near the town of Oicha. That's almost 400 kilometres from the provincial capital, Goma. Survivors blame the assault on the Allied Defence Forces. That's an Islamist militant group that claims links to Islamic State. No official claim of responsibility as yet, though. Burundi's government said it had suspended operations of several international mining companies for not getting enough of a share of the income. One of those targeted runs the Gakara project, which is one of the world's richest deposits of rare earths. That's a vital component in high-tech products. The 7 companies involved are British, Chinese and Russian, the main target being the UK-listed Rainbow Rare Earths. Next up, France 24 reporters have met up with Dr. Christine Amisi. She is a close colleague of Denis Mukwege. He's the Congolese Nobel laureate, much lauded for his work helping rape survivors get back on their feet. The doctors established a one-stop shop approach to recovery. Their facility helps women medically, but also in many other practical ways. Cami Nedelec and Shirley Sitbon report.
It's a unique 360-degree approach to helping rape survivors. Dr. Christine Amisi works in the Democratic Republic of Congo with Dr. Denis Mukwege, winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, thanks to his work with victims of assault. She's now working on bringing the same techniques to the Central African Republic. The programme takes a 4-pronged approach to recovery, helping women not just with their physical and mental well-being, but also with legal support and learning a trade.
Au départ, parce qu'elles ont subi plusieurs exactions, des traumatismes, elles sont assistées sur le plan médical, psychologique et juridique s'ils trouvent que c'est mieux de mettre leur bourreau en justice. En ce moment-là, elles ont la force et l'énergie de travailler. C'est pour cela que nous les assistons dans la réinsertion socio-économique par des activités génératrices de revenus.
Despite its abundant natural resources, the Central African Republic is one of the poorest countries in the world, and multiple armed groups vie for power in the country and attack civilians with impunity. Women are especially vulnerable, and the UN warns that since the start of the pandemic, gender-based violence has gone up, making programs like this one all the more important. Dr. Amisi hopes the treatment will help women not just to survive, but to thrive as advocates in their communities.
Elles vont promouvoir l'éducation de leurs enfants, mais aussi, puisqu'elles ont un pouvoir économique, c'est qu'elles auront aussi un mot à dire dans la communauté.
The centre in Bangui aims to help more than 1,000 women each year.
That's all for this edition of Eye on Africa. Thanks for watching. Do stay tuned.